the very fundamental principles that we've established together after 2 world wars that are so important to keeping peace and security for everyone. Principles that President Putin is egregiously violating every single day. The notion that one country can't simply go in and change the borders of another by force or take it over. The principle that one country can't dictate to another the choices that its citizens would make about their future. The principle that we're past the time of spheres of influence where one country subjugates its neighbors to its will. All of those things are at stake, and if we allow those principles to be challenged, as Putin is doing now, with impunity, that will open a Pandora's box of trouble for not just us, but quite frankly for the entire world. So the stakes are high, but because we're doing this together, I'm very confident that we'll succeed. I have to say, finally, the 2 of us have been working like this for many, many months. And that collaboration, that partnership, that friendship is also what makes a difference, and I'm really grateful for it. Thank you.
What's your message to the people of Ukraine?
Secretary Blinken there just walking away. If Maria can hear me, and I'm not sure if Maria can hear me, I hope she can, in Brussels.
I can
Tadeo,
hear you.
fantastic.
Yes, I can.
Just walk me through what we just heard, who Secretary Blinken was with, and what you expect through the rest of today.
Well, I think what we need to factor here is there's 2 big things. One is that NATO, of course, has made it very clear that there won't be a no-fly area over Ukraine. And you could hear the concern and the fear here. What they worry, Jonathan, is that especially after yesterday, we see Russia putting up a fight, and particularly a fire close to a nuclear plant. This has really set up alarms here that perhaps we're entering now into a new phase of this conflict that could be much more dangerous. So you can hear from NATO that they don't want to risk it on any front. Now, if you put up NATO flights or NATO planes on the sky to try to prevent Russia from bombing Ukraine, well, you can see that if there's an accident, this would escalate in many, many ways. So we're not going to see troops on the ground. They repeated that. We're not going to see NATO planes enforcing a no-fly area on Ukraine. They continue to say they stand with the people of Ukraine. But today, if you're in Ukraine, the reality is you probably feel very lonely.
Maria, do they consider a step up in sanctions as an escalation, or potentially escalatory for the Russians to be on the receiving end of that? Do they consider that as an escalation themselves?
Well, what they find is that it's very difficult to read what Russia is doing, because if you look at what Vladimir Putin said yesterday, is that this military operation, which, by the way, remember, in Russia, the word war is not allowed on state media. They talk about a peacekeeping operation in Ukraine. They talk about Western propaganda. They're not bombing anyone. But Vladimir Putin says this operation will continue, and Russia has strategic goals to complete in the country. Of course, that incident that we saw near a nuclear plant set, as I said, a lot of alarm bells this morning in Europe. I know of officials who say this has now taken a very ugly turn. With sanctions, I know there is an active debate going on here as to whether or not there should be a full ban on Russian energy, oil and gas, whether Sberbank could also be cut off fully from SWIFT. Remember, that is a bank that is used by Europe to factor those transactions. But again, at this point, it does seem that economic measures for the time being, because they take time to really hurt and bite the Russian economy, has not deterred Vladimir Putin. He continues to say there is a military mission to fulfill in Ukraine, and Russia is determined to achieve its goals.
Maria Tadeo, brilliant work.